Running is a beautiful sport. It rewards endeavour. Over the months and years you'll find that the more you put in, the more you get out of it. The greater your volume of training, the more your times will improve. The higher will be your finishing position at races, and the greater your sense of accomplishment. As a runner of over 25 years experience, with county medals to my name over distances from 5,000 metres up to the marathon, I can attest to that. However, into every life, some rain must fall. Race plans can go badly wrong, and you end up far from the rewards you think your training merits. And that, viewers, is what's happened to me at my last two marathon outings. The Yorkshire Marathon, October 2023, and the Manchester Marathon of April 2024. But, in the words of the Clash song, I know there'll be some way where I can swing everything back my way. So, having given the matter much thought in the last week and a half since I DNF'd at the Manchester Marathon, I've come up with a 5-stage process which I'm going to use, and which you could use too, to bounce back from disappointment to hope and then on to success. So the first stage in bouncing back from disappointment is to accept that that poor result has happened. Well, that might sound like a trite thing to say. Of course, got to accept it. It's literally happened. But it took me nearly a week to actually process the fact I had not finished the Manchester Marathon. So what I tried to do was just to shove it to one side, acknowledging on one part of my brain it had happened, but not really processing that it had happened. I was too keen to think, what went well in the training? What could I do better? Right, let's crack on. So what I did was try and move on to steps 2, 3, 4 and 5 of this recovery process without actually going through step 1 properly initially. I don't think I was ready initially to actually take on board the emotional impact of having DNF'd yet another major marathon attempt. But what happened to me over the course of the week, I was watching other people's videos from the Manchester Marathon. Now, some people had superb runs, some people had okay runs, some people really struggled, but what all those videos had in common was that they'd all got to the end of the race by hook or by crook. It was actually seeing somebody go over the finish line and collect their finisher's medal and their t-shirt, and this is about Friday evening after the Sunday marathon, that it hit me. I was the one person of all the people I knew who did not have that finisher's medal and t-shirt, and it just hit me then. So it was only by Friday night that I was willing to accept the impact psychologically and emotionally of having not finished the marathon, and only then could I realistically engage with the next few steps I'm going to go through to make sure that I went from despair to hope and then on to success. So stage 1 of the recovery process from a disappointing race result is acceptance. So stage 2 of the recovery process is one I found quite easy because, as you may have picked up, I'm quite a positive person, and that is to not wallow in all the negatives that have just happened to you, but to find the positives in the holistic experience. So even though I've DNF'd the last 2 major marathons I've attempted, I have actually undergone 2 marathon training blocks, which have each made me fitter than I was at the beginning before I started. So the first thing I held on to was the fact I am now fitter, and when that day does come right, I will execute an even better race than I would at the beginning of the whole processes. Another positive during the training blocks of both marathons, I remained illness and injury free. So I've obviously worked out a protocol for strength, conditioning, mobility and general lifestyle that enables me to keep on training and keep on making improvements. And so I just have to wait for the day where it all comes together in a race. I've worked out what marathon shoes and other race day kit work best for me. And I've hit a fielding strategy that I think, when all my other ducks are in a row, will be very good in fueling me through the demands of 26.21 miles. Or 42.195 kilometers. Mental preparation for the race was excellent. Couldn't have gone in feeling calmer, more confident and more organised. So step 2 on recovering from a hugely disappointing race performance is to acknowledge the things that went well. But we can't just sing ourselves a happy song. We need to realise that the reason things didn't go as planned was that either mistakes were made or things happened to me that are outside of my control that need not to happen next time. So how should you reflect on things that might have gone wrong? Well, the first thing I'd advise you to do is to look at the training plan you followed in the weeks and months leading up to your big race that went wrong. Perhaps you overtrained, perhaps you undertrained, perhaps you did too many big sessions or too few. If it was a marathon that went wrong, perhaps you didn't do enough long runs. The next thing you need to look at is your short-term preparation. You might have done an excellent training block, but the 2 or 3 days before your goal race that went wrong, there might have been things happening in your life that might have been stressful, or there might have been things deficient in terms of your fueling and hydration in those crucial few days before the goal race. One thing I like to look at is the data that my Coros watch gives me. So I'm just going to put up on screen now 3 bits of data from the Manchester Marathon that I DNF'd at. So we can see the red line, that was my heart rate. So we can see that really doesn't drop at all, even though I'm really struggling. But what you can see is that the orange jagged line, which is my power output, drops as I fade away. And concomitant with that, the green jagged line, which is my pace, also drops. But my effort level remained the same. So that leads me to think it wasn't fuel in there because I wouldn't be able to keep my heart rate up if I was underfueled. So diving into the data you can get from modern sports watches can help you realise, if not what went wrong, but screen out some of the things that you think might have gone wrong, but the data tells you we're actually fine. You may wish to speak to experienced runners you know who may be able to look at your training or analyse it for you. You might wish to employ a running coach to go over your training and put some pointers that might set you in the right direction for your next big goal race. So working out what went wrong can be a tricky process. If you ask 10 people, you'll probably get 11 different answers. But by using a combination of your own sense of inner self about what happened, some of the data you can get from modern sports watches and the apps on the phone, and advice from experienced runners, you may be able to work out what went wrong and put a plan in place to avoid future disappointments. So one of the brightest and optimistic phases in any running cycle is writing a plan for a next big goal race. So this might be 2, 3 or 4 months ahead. There's nothing quite like working out all those sessions, putting in maybe tune-up races or parkruns that you're going to do and having it all mapped out in front of you, and then being able to tick off those runs day by day. That's really helped me mentally bounce back from the disappointment of DNFing at Manchester. And having properly gone through steps 2 and 3, working out what went well that I need to keep in, and thinking about some things that could have been done better that I need to include or remove from the plan going forward, I'm really happy and confident that the plan I have to get me through the races I am intending to do right through to October 2024 is the right one for me. Now, you may be happy writing a plan yourself and have the experience to do so. You might want to hire a coach to write a plan for you that is individual and bespoke. You may want to download or pay for a generic one that many people sell. And I'm going to go through in a couple of videos time what plan I'm going to be following for the very important races I have coming up for the rest of this year. So have any of you tried a plan written by somebody else, maybe one you got from a book or off somebody from the internet? If you have, let me know in the comments below and what sort of success you had with it. So whereas points 2, 3 and 4 I've discovered are very much practical things, point 1 was about the emotional processing of having had a very disappointing race result. And the 5th and final way in which you can recover from a hugely disappointing race performance is also to do with the emotions and the mind. If you've watched our channel previously, you may know our little catchphrase we use at the end of the videos is keep on keeping on. So we didn't arrive at that catchphrase by accident. It actually comes from one of my favourite songs of all time called Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan. And the full lyrics go, "When finally the bottom fell out, I became withdrawn. And the only thing I knew how to do was to keep on keeping on, like a bird that flew, tangled up in blue." So it's easy to feel, as I have, that when a major race goes wrong, the bottom has fallen out of your world. But there is always another race, always another training block, always reflections and improvements you can make. You might become withdrawn when you've had a bad race result. You might want to hide yourself away from the running world for a few days, and that's absolutely fine. Everybody deals with things in different ways. I have the sort of brain where I want to get stuck in and plan for the next thing and put it all behind me. Like a bird that flew, hopefully you will be flying come your next big race. So I hope some of what I've been through in this video will help you and will help you stop getting tangled up in feelings of being blue. There we go, folks, a 5-stage process you can go through, and what I'm currently going through, in order to bounce back from a hugely disappointing race result. I hope you found some of this interesting and useful, and you can apply it to your future running plans. If you have, please give this video a like, and if you'd like to see whether these plans moving forward actually have the effect we want, please consider subscribing to the channel.
So, until next time, keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.